Christine.
Hi, Lauren.
Welcome to the Brand Innovators podcast.
Thanks
for
for having me. Thrilled to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you here. I wanted to talk to you. We are friends and we've known each other for a while. So I wanted to talk to you kind of a little bit more today about Christine, the person, than Christine, the VP at Tripadvisor.
Love that.
Okay. So I thought I would just start off with you. You have a large team, a large role at TripAdvisor. You are also quite young. You kind of rose through the ranks really quickly in your career. And I just wanted to get a sense from you of what do you think is in you that led you to be such a leader, and especially such a fast-growing leader and such a leader early on in your career?
I feel like I need to take it back. I come from a first-generation Irish-American background, and my parents are in construction, nursing. My sister's a teacher, so very blue-collar family. And I feel like I always had some level of grit and perseverance to constantly sort of work really hard and take any opportunity that's in front of me, take it by the horns and really push myself forward. I think that I sort of got here by accident. Like every opportunity that's come my way, I've taken it and seized the opportunity and not faked it till I made it, but sort of like had humble humility in realizing that I didn't know what I was doing and pushed myself forward, and I've continued to shock myself. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting, like this humble humility recently came up with someone, and I feel like everybody should have a little bit of it because it's really what makes you grow and push yourself forward. It's like a good little piece to constantly have, even when you're at the top of your game.
And I think people think of humility and vulnerability as something that's a downside or a negative, but really it's like the strongest leaders are willing to say oh, I don't understand that. Can you explain it to me?
It's a level of authenticity too. I think the reality is you don't show up that way earlier in your career because you're trying to put on a face or make it seem like you know what you're doing. But I was always in over my skis. I was always given jobs before I was ready for them. And I think that pushed me even harder.
That's cool. Do you think that, what do you think, did you have imposter syndrome when you were sort of given those jobs and you felt like, oh shit, I don't know what I'm doing here?
Yeah, I honestly feel like I've had imposter syndrome until the last couple of years,
Right.
Which is weird. And I also think I should still sort of have it to a degree, and a better word for it is the humble humility, because then you're not learning, right? I think that there's an element of always being able to be a little bit uneasy in a situation or not know everything about it to really make sure that you're pushing yourself into the next gear. So I've always had imposter syndrome, and it feels good to have a moment when you're not feeling that way, but at the same time, there's a moment where you feel like you need to be pushing yourself more.
Mm-hmm. And how do you think about pushing your team? Because you are a leader, you lead a large team. You probably don't have a lot of day-to-day interaction with most of them. Yeah. So how do you sort of think about being an inspirational leader, driving creativity amongst the people that are working underneath you?
Yeah, I think, Scott Galloway says this, but in the agency of others, I believe everything is in the agency of your people, and being able to empower and enable them to do their best work. I would say years ago, I definitely was more focused on business outcomes. And now I really focus on creating an environment where everyone can really thrive and learn and fail and think through things that they wouldn't have been able to think through in another situation. And then I also think that everybody watches you. So, you are the poster child of your organization. And I think the best thing that you can do is show up the way that you want your team to show up. So I'm very cognizant of making sure that I act and do the way that I want the culture of the team to be. I have a large team. I've had a large team for a long time, and it's really tough to touch everyone individually. But I actually find there's ways to do it. Like at the holidays, I sent 300 messages to everyone on the team, personalized, about their achievements for the year, and it took me days.
Wow, good for you.
But it's meaningful. ends the year on a really high note for everybody. They understand that I acknowledge and I appreciate their work, and then it sets the tone for the year to come in the best way possible. So I really believe like taking the time and doing those things and letting the team know how much I appreciate them, even though they don't see me and I can't touch them individually on a daily basis, that I know what they're doing and I appreciate their work.
That's really thoughtful. I think a lot of leaders could take a lesson, including myself, from that type of like slowness, thoughtfulness, and care, because that's really what it is. It's caring.
It's caring.
Yeah.
And it's acknowledging. Like everybody knows that they're putting a lot of work in, that they're contributing to the broader good, but they don't feel seen. And I think it creates a level of them being seen and understood and valued. So the messages back were as humbling for me as it probably was for them to receive. So
Of course.
that was so nice to get over the last couple of weeks as they were sort of coming back from holiday, and how much they appreciated it and how much it's motivating them to kick off 2025 strong.
You have the personality type where you will work and you will get it done, and you will almost like, and I think we've talked about this before, but like when you were coming up, like you do anything to get like the business results, but also to like show up for your team. And like that often included maybe putting yourself second or third or last. And so I know that you've sort of had a shift in your mentality a bit, and sort of taking more control back of your personal time and your, work-life balance. And I just wanted to get a sense from you of like how you think about that.
Yeah, I'm probably the worst person for work-life balance, and I've grown a lot in the last few years, and I feel like it'll be a continuous journey, because when you're leading a large team, there's a lot of pressures. You're working for a public global company. But I think the first thing that I've really taken a step back to do is define what balance means for me, because I actually feel like it's different for everyone. And then finding ways to activate those levels of balance with family and friends, or with my workout routine, or with figuring out like when I need to be really on and when I can take a step back. Because I forget who said it once, but you can have it all, just not at the same time. And that's resonated for me, because I actually just don't think that there's like a real-time work-life balance. It's different moments in time when you choose to focus on one thing or the other, or find some level of where you're going to pull back and for what reasons. So yeah, I've had a journey of working really hard and having a lot of regrets with personal things in my life, with not meeting a partner, with spending less time with family, and things like COVID were the turning point for me to really take a step back and say everything has just been blown up. Travel is grounded. Business is at an all-time low with everybody not traveling. And the only thing that matters is your health and your family.
Right, absolutely. And so then from that point, did that kind of set you on a different path?
Yeah, I would say even before that, it's funny. I was at Condé Nast, and overnight I was handed a 250-person team in addition to my responsibilities. And like 6-8 months later, I was putting my hands through my hair, and my hair started to fall out. And I thought something was wrong with me, and went to the doctor, and it ultimately was stress, and your hair grows in 3 to 6 month cycles. So it was literally the moment that I took that team on. And that was a pivotal point for me, and you would have thought that would have been a moment to reflect and pull back and say, is my health my core and my primary concern here? But I didn't. It was actually COVID that really, made me take a step back, made me be really vulnerable, show up for the team in a really vulnerable way, think about ways to weather a massive storm that we didn't actually know when was going to be up, and how the business was going to survive. So to me, I think those two were different turning points for me, one more professionally catapulting my career, and the other really for reflecting on what matters. And it's a constant struggle. Like every single day, every month, when I'm juggling where I travel or where I spend my time or how I'm being pulled in different directions, it's reflecting on sort of, okay, what is this ultimately going to drive and do, and where do I need to focus my attention?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's amazing how our bodies tell us things before we're willing to even, like you probably knew.
But I didn't.
Really?
I literally thought something was like physically wrong with me, and I guess the stress is a physical thing. But that was the last thing that my head was going to, but I had every other test to
Yeah.
weigh out every other option, and that ultimately ended up to be what it was. And it took 3 years to grow back.
Oh my
Because that's
God.
how long it takes for your hair to grow back.
Wow. Well, I mean, yeah, it's crazy to think about how you don't really notice those things. The other day I was sitting and I realized like I clenched my stomach all the time. And I was doing this meditation and breathing exercise, and it was like unclench your stomach, and I was like, "Oh my God, that feels so good."
Like simple breathing.
Simple breathing.
Or simple like letting things go, and all of a sudden you start to feel better. But everything tenses up when
Right.
the pressure gets high and you need to
course.
deliver.
Your breath becomes really short, and your shoulders are up, and like you can be in a state like that for months on end, and then at the end of it, you're like, "Oh my God, like what have I been doing to myself?"
Yeah. Yeah, it permeates in your body in so many different ways. Like I've had upper back issues with like stress, and then I ended up having a lower back issue, and that was actually just a physical thing that I put it out, and that totally wiped me out. Whereas other areas you just weather through. You push
Yeah,
yourself
of course.
to whatever bounds you possibly can.
I was just reading through, McKinsey puts out the Women at Work report, and they just put their recent 2024 version out not too long ago. And it said that I think that women and millennial women, so women in our generation, were sort of the last bastion of like, you work with your head down, you work till midnight if you need to, you sacrifice your body, your family, your whatever, to get it done. And that there's this new generation. And I think probably a bit of it comes from like the post-COVID like realizations that some people woke up with, but that like a lot of women are either taking a step back, or they're taking reduced hours, or they're switching jobs completely. But there's like a lot of shift that's happening for women in particular, because I think we weather a lot. And so I just,
We weather so much, and I also think that we're able to get so much more done as we think about what we juggle. So, I do believe that in a lot of cases, not all, but our 50% is most men's 100%. And we don't realize that, so we're still trying to put in 100% in multiple places versus realizing what's good enough, or where you can delegate, or where you can pull back and let somebody else sort of take the lead. But yeah, it's sad because I think a lot of women are pulling back and thinking that there's only one option, and that's to not actually continue to progress in their executive path or in their roles.
It'll be interesting to see what the next few years hold too, because it might be that people are pulling back and then reinvesting energy into something else. So who knows, But I do think it is probably the biggest shift that we've seen in the last COVID was the biggest shift, and the results after COVID, the biggest shift we've seen since women started becoming equal partners in the workplace as men.
I mean, I think COVID was a blessing for everyone. I think the speed and the gear that everybody was in was
too much. It was unsustainable. Yeah.
For me personally, everybody takes it into their sort of personal situation, and had that not happened, I think I would have been on a very different trajectory. Versus finding balance and finding spirituality and finding meditation to be something that I didn't think I could ever slow down and take a breath, but those things are so healthy when you actually invest your time in them.
And how are you, I guess we're going into this new year, we are in this new year, how are you thinking about maintaining that this year and not getting so wrapped into or pulled into all these different directions where you're giving a little bit of yourself to too many things?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's been such a journey, and I reflect constantly on sort of the year past and the year forward, and I do think I've made so much progress in the last couple of years, and last year specifically, with prioritizing things like my back surgery and prioritizing pieces of my life that were neglected for a long time. But it also was a great bang out year for us from a business perspective when I delegated a ton and wasn't in the thick of solving every problem and letting the team sort of do. And that has been a great reflection, because it's taught me, like, if I really am conscious about the areas that I focus in and the highest impact that I can drive, that we can continue to surpass, the great year that we had.
And you can let go of other things and then trust your team, like trust the experts that they're going to be able to handle it, which is a beautiful thing.
And they're growing like leaps and bounds as well. I think
Yeah.
what some people don't realize is like nobody's ever ready for the next thing, and
Right.
my leaders are new in a lot of things, but they're doing great, and they're not perfect, and they're um, progressing in some things and not in others. And I think the best thing that you can do with a leadership team is band together and find the ways that everybody individually can bring their best to, the business, to our personal lives. Like, we love our team, the overall global org that we have. And I think that also makes everybody feel like it's not work every day and love coming to work with the people that they do great things with.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Take risks early. I think this is something I would give when I mentor people. Everybody overthinks their career, what steps they're taking, and I took risks. I mean, I will say, like, I continued to, when I felt really uncomfortable, I just jumped in the deep end and figured it out and lost half my hair. But, I did take the risks, and I think when you take risks, they pay off over time, and they compound. And I think compound interest, whether it's in the financial world or in the benefits and the personal value that it brings to you, is huge. I would also say don't take yourself too seriously. Proximity is power. Like, how do you put yourself in places and positions and around people that present opportunities that you would have never thought of? And I'm, in a big mindset of manifesting and thinking about things I want and creating moments that are opportunistic or might not have been scheduled or I had a plan for. And how do you seize those moments and take opportunities as they come to you?
We're going into what's going to be probably another big year for travel. I think a lot of the travel trends that we've seen are back to this, like, and it might be some of the hangover of COVID, but back to this world of like connecting, meeting up with those friends from college and doing that girls trip you always talked about, the baby moons, the girls trips, the guys trips, there's all these different new types of like destinations, traveling to go see concerts with your kids, or like almost creating these memories. And we've always done that in travel,
Yeah.
but I think it's like there's this whole new, I guess there's like a new world of travel that is more in this connection and spiritual realm, I'd say, than maybe in years past. I'd love your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think now more than ever, especially with the generations coming up, value experiences so much. And I think that comes in the form of things that we were doing when we were younger, but it also comes in the form of like taking your parents or your grandparents or multi-generations on trips to make memories, because you just don't know life is very fragile, and
Sure.
we've all seen that. But there's also something that, there's a book that recently came out that has a theory around the experience dividend and memory dividend. And you spend your money on physical things and goods and showing up in a nice car and nice clothes, and those deteriorate really quickly. But when you have a memory or an experience that you go on with friends or family or your partner or your kids, that pays off for life. You remember that, the pictures are there, and there's something that, binds travel in a way that I don't think anything else does, where you can create so many lasting memories that are with you for life.
Yeah. I think it's going to become ever more important too, because we're in this like robotic, AI driven, like, I don't know, world that's going to become even more robotic and AI driven. And I think the IRL stuff, whether it's concerts, sports, travel, moments with your loved ones and your friends and new friends and whatever that might be, but like those IRL experiences are going to become even more important than they have been.
Magical things happen when you're together, whether it's at a sporting event or a concert or a festival or traveling to a place you've never been before with locals that you're, exploring sort of the world in a very different light. I just think that will never go away, and I actually think that the younger generations are teaching the older generations the importance of it. And what meaningful connections can happen in IRL moments.
Sure. One thing you're excited about for this year?
I'm excited for AI to become a reality. I think that there was a lot of talk in 2025 and a lot of great progressions, but I think it's going to be the year of real application in a lot of different functions and a lot of different industries. I think marketing is ripe for it. I think sales, marketing, creativity overall. So to me, it's really going to be about, how can people sort of adopt and change really quickly and test and learn. But I feel like AI is in this industry going to have a massive impact.
Personal, something you're looking forward to?
I have so many personal things this year. I'm going on a retreat to Crete in May.
Fun.
That I'm really excited about. I went to one 2 years ago. It was my first time ever doing something like that, and this is the part 2 of it. It's her first time sort of doing a 201 of the initial introductory retreat, and it's 7 days with 10 women from very different experiences and backgrounds, and it's leadership sessions and yoga and holistic therapy. And so I'm really excited for that.
That's so cool.
End of May. Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to hear about it when you get back because that sounds amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Thank you so much for joining me, Christine Maguire.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.